Imagine the thought, the idea that if you get out of this, you are no safer than you were the day before. We have a mass shooting occurring once again in America, this time in Louisville, Kentucky, a state which just recently, actually, what's the word I'm looking for? Loosened some of their gun restrictions. So that's all great. You know, that's one way. What is this? Oh, is this the same article I opened twice? Wow, I'm stupid. Let's just take a look real quick.
We have breaking news. Police say there are multiple casualties after reports of an active shooter at a bank in downtown Louisville. Police are asking people to stay away from the area. We'll keep following this developing story.
Is that really it?
George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks.
Is that really it? God, what is it like for people? What is it like for normal people who watch TV where this is all they get? Okay, hit me with some. Oh boy. Oh, there's like no sound in this at all. Uh-huh. I saw like a video. Okay, let's see if we can find something a little bit more. Louisville shooter, maybe? Let's see. Stop it. Let's see. Yeah, what is this? I want to see this. This is the exact same video I just found. If that's seriously a picture of dude just walking around with an AR-15, Jesus Christ. Aerial footage shows aftermath. Hit me with it.
Let's go to CNN's Omar Jimenez, who has been following this since just a few moments ago, watching all this happen. Did you hear anything?
Wow, I didn't know Louisville was on the border like that.
We now know there are 6 people who have been shot, including a police officer. Do we hear anything about their conditions?
Back the blue, right?
Like that?
Well, you know, we got the tragic update as we're seeing that 5 people are dead, 6 taken to the hospital after this shooting. And obviously, when you first get reports of an active shooter, of an active aggressor, these are the types of reports that you worry about, that the situation updates to the casualties that we're seeing here, the fatalities that are being reported here. Now, one thing that we did learn from this as well is that the active aggressor threat, as they described it, was over. They said the suspected shooter has been neutralized, or the shooter has been neutralized at this point. We're also learning a little bit more about what was happening as this was unfolding, but this is coming from a witness account who is nearby, who spoke to one of our affiliates, saying he got a call from his wife who said there was an active shooter and that she was locked inside a vault at the Old National Bank here. And so the man called 911.
Genius.
But officers were already aware. This was
fucking just lock yourself in the vault, call it a day.
In the morning there. He described it as a traumatic phone call with his wife.
That's what we need. We just install enormous impenetrable vaults in schools.
Sheltering at the time. He's since talked to her and that she's okay, but obviously this was a situation that the shooter was actively firing at folks, and we know at least one person, potentially even others, were sheltering inside a bank vault just to be safe, just to protect themselves.
Jesus.
And so obviously we've gotten the update from police that some of these casualties have confirmed now into fatalities, and that others have been taken to the hospital. Their conditions are still
I guess
unknown.
casualties,
You know, the
you can be a
governor
casualty
is
without
headed out to
dying,
the
I
scene
suppose.
right now. We know there's law enforcement at multiple jurisdictions that have said they are responding at the local level, Louisville Police, but also ATF, FBI. And so I think at this point, we're now waiting to see what develops from here, including the potential identity of the shooter here. And we watch to see if these numbers unfortunately grow as they typically do when we get into the early stages of reporting.
I think one of the things that really irritates me with the way that we cover mass shootings also isn't it kind of he kind of said it there for a moment where it's like, oh, the identity of the person and the da-da-da-da-da. And I feel like while there is a valuable element to understanding the person and the I suppose the demographic that somebody fits into, I don't actually think that, at least in the case of guns and mass shootings, that that's something that the media should really be focusing on. And I say that mainly because what does knowing the person's identity, give us necessarily about the information about the shooting. Basically, I've heard rumblings. I don't want to say anything's confirmed, but I've seen that the person who committed this mass shooting was a former employee, which I think is probably more helpful information to give a voter, a viewer of CNN than, oh yeah, the guy's a white guy, a black guy, or whatever. I just always feel like the media gets really interested in not just identifying the shooter, but then doing their whole reporting on who this person was, what drove them to this, and like the aspects of their life, and a lot of this stuff. I don't know. Sometimes it just feels like kind of our obsession in American culture with bad guys, our for whatever reason, good or bad, our interest in I don't even want to say traditional hero figures. It's like, why are there movies like Taxi Driver or The Joker or Dog Day Afternoon or what's the one where the dude, they did a Bruce Willis remake of it, but it's a Bronson movie from back in the day. Shit. I can't remember what it's called. What is it? God damn it. It's gonna bother the shit out of me. Bruce Willis, Charles Bronson? There it is. That's what I want. Death Wish. That's what it is. Like movies like why do we have all of these kinds of films in American culture? I think this is a pretty uniquely American export in terms of our fiction, in terms of our media, narratives that we create in our media. That is always kind of looking into these and trying to understand and these figures who either commit mass shootings or go on like rampage, and people who are really morally gray, I guess. I don't know. I just feel like we have that perspective play out in our media, in our fictional media, a lot, where it's, you're interested in those topics and in how those people got to the point that they are. But then unfortunately our news media, the thing that's supposed to give us information on how to vote, how to understand the world around us, how to synthesize information, all this stuff, seems to always be interested in the honestly kind of frivolous aspects to a degree of some of these shooters. I don't know. It's just weird to me. That's all. It's always this interest in, let's identify the shooter, let's get to know this person, without really, I don't know, a interest in having the conversation about guns and gun violence. And the certain, CNN's a little bit better about that, but they are kind of interested in the spectacle of a shooting, I think. But either way, is this on? Oh, what's going on in NPR right now? Oh, okay, it's got weird updates. 5 dead, 9 injured. Oh boy. Let's see. Gunman opened fire Old National Bank building Monday. Gunman, shooter who police referred to as he is believed to be an employee of the bank. Makes sense. Shooting unfolded right across from Louisville's Slugger Field during peak commuting hours. Separate unrelated shooting. Jesus Christ. Police say 2 officers were shot, including one taken to a local hospital. So keep in mind, like, people who advocate for more guns, you are putting cops in more danger. You can say that you back the blue, but more guns in the hands of more people, especially in the case of Florida, who just got rid of their concealed carry permit requirements, that is going to make officers less safe, because now you have no way to track and identify and verify that somebody like legally has a firearm. It's just going to make any random stop that police are already told are dangerous when they're not actually that dangerous. But any random stop, now there is a ramped up attention there. I feel like mayor asked for prayers after shooting. Yeah, Mayor Craig Deemers decried the evil act of gun violence. Makes sense. That took multiple lives this morning in the cities. In a statement shared on Twitter. Show me. Our city has experienced another horrific tragedy this morning with a mass shooting at Old National Bank. One of them. Therefore, an evil act of gun violence took multiple lives and left several people, including one of our police officers, fighting for their lives. Rachel and I, the men and women of the LMPD, and our entire city ask you join us in praying for the recovery of those receiving medical care, the families of those who lost loved ones, and those who are scared, heartbroken of what happened this morning. Our deepest gratitude is the heroic efforts of the first responders who arrived within minutes of being called and who risked their lives to save others. We will continue to provide updates. Okay, so literally, thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. Join us. Yeah. 4 people killed. Yep. Mm-hmm. So, okay. So this is my thing. This is probably a lovely commentary on where we are in the United States right now. We are in a place where 5 people are shot dead, one of them being a police officer, if that's not technically added to that number. Is that technically part of that 5 number? Let's see. Multiple lives, several people, including... Okay, so, yeah. But either way, a police officer is dead. Another one is in the hospital. Multiple people are dead now. And multiple more now injured as well with that other police officer. And the only thing, as the mayor of this city, imagine for just a moment, that this was your family, that this was this was your wife, these were your kids, this was maybe even you getting injured. And as you're laying there, bullets being fired off in the room you're in, you probably caught a stray possibly. Imagine the thought, the idea that if you get out of this, you are no safer than you were the day before. Keep that in mind. You're the mayor of your city, the person who you elected to be responsible for the safety and the function of the city you live in, saying, all I have to say for any of you are my condolences and my prayers. And that's all I'm going to ask from my constituents. I'm not going to ask that we change anything. I'm not going to ask that we fix anything. I'm not going to ask that we do anything. All I'm going to ask is that we all come together and say, wow, that sucked, and move on. I cannot imagine laying there, wondering if I'm going to survive, coming to the realization that even if I survive, I'm no safer. Nothing will change. After this bullet gets taken out of me, I'm going to go back into the world and I'm going to have the exact same amount of chance that I did a week ago to getting shot again. That's the world we live in. Biden urges action on gun safety. Yeah, what's new? The White House has issued a full statement on the mass shooting in Louisville. Once again, our nation is mourning after a senseless act of gun violence. Jill and I are praying for those killed and injured in the tragic shooting in Louisville and for survivors who will carry grief and trauma for the rest of their lives. And again, this isn't any better. Joe Biden can say that he, that he supports gun reform, all the rest of the stuff, right? But Democrats had a majority in the Senate, had a majority in the House. And did they pass any meaningful gun legislation? No, they didn't. They passed that piss poor, half-ass, bullshit gun reform bill. If I remember doing a video on it, it was absolutely and utterly, it's the most half-measured thing I have ever seen in my life. You know, it addresses a few very specific, very edge case problems without offering any regulation, any reforms, anything that's going to meaningfully make more the majority, the vast majority of all of us safer. So I mean, when I say that Biden, Democrats are not innocent on this. They have had numbers of opportunities. They've had any number of opportunities since even the Obama era to do anything about this, the ramped up gun violence that we're seeing. They could have renewed the fucking assault weapons ban, which, while I don't believe was the best legislation or even or even what we need right now, at the very least you could see a reduction, just plainly a reduction in mass shootings during the time of the assault weapons ban. And since it's expired, we've seen a slow but steady ramp up in these kinds of shootings. Like it's not a fix all, but fuck, at least it was something that, you know, something. I mean, shit. Biden has frequently called on Congress to pass an assault weapons ban following major mass shootings during his administration. In today's message, Biden called on lawmakers to act on several. Goddamn, Biden, you're the fucking president, dude. Why am I only hearing this from you? Like this is the part where I get frustrated with Democrats, because only after a shooting do they come out and they want to talk about the issue of gun violence, talk about the issue of mass shootings, when you need to be hammering this home every single day. Every single day you need to be hammering this home, not just when it makes the news. Because when you only do it when it just makes the news, you look, and let's be honest here, you're being opportunistic. That's all you're doing. And everyone can see that really plainly. But if you make it an actual part of your critique, part of your vision, to stop this stuff, then people can take you a lot more seriously. And also then you keep it in people's minds. You know, we're not going to hear, people are, now that this has happened, we're not going to talk about the Nashville shooter until the manifesto comes out. But otherwise, we're not going to talk about it. And when the manifesto comes out, then we're going to talk about that. And we're not going to talk about any gun control. So you have to stay on top of this stuff. It's long past time that we require safe storage of firearms, require background checks on all gun sales, eliminate gun manufacturers' immunity from liability. I'm still not sure about that one, but I know they say that. I don't really. I don't know if that's, I don't know. I don't know if that's, I don't know. I'm not sold on the liability shield part. Or I guess the elimination of the liability shield. We can and must do these things now. Strong majority of Americans want lawmakers to act on common sense gun safety reforms. Instead, for Florida, North Carolina, the U.S. House of Representatives, we've watched Republican officials double down on dangerous bills that make our schools, places of worship, and communities, and police, by the way, less safe. It's unconscionable, it's reckless, and too many Americans are paying with their lives. Yeah, I think I remember we watched Charlie Kirk say last week, hey, look, this is the reality, this is the trade. And Charlie Kirk, and I think at least he was being honest in that moment. He pretty much said, like, yeah, this is the sacrifice we're gonna make. I'm okay with this. And I respect the honesty. And if that's your honest to God opinion, if your actual take is, look, all of this is worth it for us to have our right to carry firearms and protect ourselves from the government or whatever, then that's fine. But just say that. Don't be dishonest and make it about a million other things. If you think it's worth the cost of children's lives, of random people at a bank's lives, then just say it. But you don't. But people don't. There are 2A activists who simply don't want to cop to that because they know how politically ineffective and how politically, I can't even say dangerous. Oh, thanks, Zaviz? No. How do you say the X and then into a Z? Zaziz? I don't know. But thank you anyway. But Where was I? Fuck, I lost my train of thought. God damn it. Zazie. Okay. Oh, I don't know why I was putting an extra Z on there. Fuck. Now I was distracted. What was my point? I remember. Wait, it's coming. It's on the, it's synthesizing. God, I have like the worst ADHD. Being gun rights. Yes, thank you. But yeah, it's just, it sounds awful if you come out and say, oh yeah, I think it's all been worth all the gun violence. I think my Second Amendment right is worth Columbine, is worth the well, I guess there was a shooting at VCU, wasn't there? The UVA shooting, every single shooting that we've had, fucking Sandy Hook, all of them. If you want to say, it sounds awful to say, look, all of that was worth it because we have freedom and we have guns, and we're allowed to, to own our weapons and everything else. It sounds awful, and they already know it's a losing argument, so they pivot to every other little thing, and they always make gun ownership about protecting your home from home invaders, which, like, yeah, that's really that common. And again, I think I've said this before. If you believe that somebody's broken into your home, you call the police. You know what they're going to tell you? They're not going to tell you to pick up a gun and go confront that person. They're going to tell you to barricade and lock yourself in your room or whatever room you're in, call the police and wait for them to show up and deal with it. That's what they're going to tell you, because that's the actual safe thing to do. But there are people who actively don't choose the safest option because they want to feel like an action hero. They want to feel like John Wick. They want to feel like they're this tough macho action guy or whatever. And because of that, they put all of us at risk. So I'm not in favor of the ownership of firearms, but this is the cost, and people need, and I wish more people would be honest about it. Charlie Kirk, I don't think realizes how honest he was, but still. A recent Kentucky law makes the state a so-called Second Amendment sanctuary. Yes. Today's shooting came less than 2 weeks after a new Kentucky law took effect that blocks state and local law enforcement for participating in any federal bans on guns, ammunition, or firearms accessories. Which that makes sense. Anyone who violates the statute, a so-called Second Amendment sanctuary law, could be fired from their job and charged with a misdemeanor. Republican Representative Josh Bray, who sponsored the bill, told Louisville Public Media it meant that local and state authorities could not roll up and enforce any unconstitutional bans. Well, you would have to, first of all, unconstitutional ban, you would have to get that verified by the Supreme Court. Secondly, I think we saw didn't we see a picture? One second. No. Louisville. Yeah, I'm pretty. Yeah. Like, keep in mind. Oh my God, this is a small ass picture. This guy, if this is a picture of this guy, which I don't know, but it seems to be. I trust the AP on this one. If this guy is rolling down the street with this AR-15 right here, the idea from Second Amendment advocates is that this is perfectly okay. He should be allowed to do this. He has a right to do this. Now, the problem is, and if you talk to any police officer, the problem with broad open carry is that you can't identify threats from non-threats. Have you ever gone to the arcade? You played those like Area 51 games, or maybe Time Crisis. Oh, does Time Crisis have the innocent people? Every once in a while, Time Crisis has the innocent people. But you ever notice, there's all the dudes pop up with AKs, you shoot them, right? And then every once in a while, there's like a rando person who runs out. It's like a lady in like a dress. She's like, right? Now, imagine she's holding a gun. What do you think your immediate response is? And how many times, if you've played those games, even the people who aren't armed and run out and are all like, how many times you accidentally shoot them because you identify them as a threat way too quickly because everybody around you is a threat? This is what we mean. I know it's kind of a silly example, but this is for police the way that they approach, random citizens. If everyone's armed, if everyone's like open carrying, they wouldn't be able to tell who's dangerous, who's not dangerous, because all they see is people participating or not participating, not executing. Fuck, what's the word I'm looking for? Not participating, not executing. Fuck. Exercising, that's what it is. People exercising their Second Amendment rights, let alone all it takes is one person. If everyone's open and carry, all it takes is one person to go bang, 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 before any of the 5 people who just got shot ever had even a second's chance to respond in kindly with their firearms, let alone in a scenario where that guy shoots a bunch of people. Maybe the other 12 people in the room also fire back. We have a huge gunfight going on. A bunch of people catch strays. And when the police show up, they don't know who's a threat. They don't know who's not a threat. And even in any firearm exchange, you don't know who's shooting at you a lot of the times. They're just coming off of nowhere. And most of the time you're like, well, I don't know if there's another person, if there isn't another person. It muddies the water. It makes every situation harder to find, harder to know about, harder to know where the sides are. Are there sides? Was this 2 people got into an argument, guns popped off, and then both of their friend circles went to 2 sides and just started firing back at each other? Is this a case where one guy? Is it 2 guys? The police can never know. Information is very light in these scenarios. It's just, and again, it just makes less strict laws just naturally make people less safe. With every right, there comes responsibility by the people to hold it responsibly. Now, the consequences of people who abuse that responsibility can come to fruition with guns through people abusing them by hurting others. The sacrifice of giving up guns to me isn't worth it. Let's see. Isn't worth it. It's funny that the argument you made is essentially what I think about guns, which is come to fruition with guns. The sacrifice of giving up guns. I'm pro-gun. You're pro-gun. Interesting. So did any of that penetrate? Like, you understand what I'm saying when I say that we're not less safe. We are by definition in more danger with the more open laws that we have. Anyway. Let's see. Republican. The bill approved by Kentucky's Republican majority legislature and became law late last month after Democrat Governor Andy Beshear neither signed nor vetoed it. Why didn't he just veto it? Police have not said how the suspected shooter, obtained the gun or guns used in Monday's attack. In a series of tweets, Beshear called the shooting in downtown Louisville a tragedy and senseless act and said the victims' families need us to wrap our arms around them and love them with all our hearts. That's nice. Last year, after the shooting at an elementary school in Uvalde, Beshear said any changes to Kentucky's gun laws would require the buy-in of state legislature leadership. Hospital says 9 patients have been treated in total. That's good. Police investigate separate shooting in downtown. Lovely. 1 person was killed and another injured in a separate shooting this morning in Louisville's downtown area. According to local reports, the shooting happened outside a Jefferson Community and Technical College building. Police said not far from the mass shooting that occurred a little more than a mile away at the city's old National Bank building on East Main Street earlier this morning. Louisville Metro Police tweeted that the suspects in the second, smaller shooting fled prior to police arrival. Lovely. The school shared that its technical campus will remain on lockdown following reports of the shooting, and also announced all campuses would close at 12 p.m. Makes sense. President Biden says Americans aren't paying the price of inaction. In a tweet, Biden offered the condolences, Too many Americans, yeah, we read this. And he's not wrong, but again, it all just comes down to being honest for me. And I find a lot of 2A activists aren't honest about this. Consistently called for Congress. Well, that's nice. It's too bad he's not like the president of the United States. Kentucky elected official says his friend was a victim of the shooting. No, I understand. As a collective, we are less safe, but I think as an equalizer, I value a gun much more, especially for women. A woman's best form of self-protection is with a gun against a male. So, okay, let me finish this. I do wish for restrictions on violent criminals having guns and fair background checks upon purchase and transfers, but I don't like the idea of an all-out ban or banning specific guns and gun bars. Okay, so yeah, so we're mostly basically I value individuals. Yeah, okay. So we mostly agree. Like, we're probably at 90% agreement then. I probably have a few specific guns or parts that I would probably do bans on, but not bans. Like, I would restrict that to you know, if you go to like a range can have whatever the fuck they want. You can go to a range, have fun, shoot whatever the fuck you want. Private ownership of certain parts of certain, I think, tiers of weapons, I think might be a decent idea. But yeah, I don't support a ban at all. Bans are not really realistic in modern American society. But we do need restriction laws, which most gun owners believe in restriction, in tighter restrictions in general. But the woman thing, I would suggest you look into that. All the data that I've ever seen shows that women actually are less safe when like owning firearms, because an attacker, especially if they're a male, are usually able to wrestle their gun away from them and then kill them in a scenario where they would have probably been assaulted, but probably wouldn't have been shot to death. I haven't looked up any that specific frame in a while, but I remember that conversation a couple years ago, or at least like throughout time. And generally the agreement is, if you have a gun, if you're a woman, there is a chance that you could use it against an attacker, but you're at a higher percentage of dying from getting that gun wrestled from you. AR-15 to me isn't inherently worse than a pistol. The stats clear that out, and the damage of the gun isn't too much of a difference as well. Well, I think the if we're talking an AR, so the thing with AR-15s is they're platforms, right? So the problem lies mostly in the caliber, I think. Because an AR-15 can shoot 9mm rounds, so we're not really usually at a higher velocity as far as I understand. So the difference between AR-15s and pistols are usually concealability. It's why you see a lot of shootings, a lot of, I think, normal, not planned mass shootings done with pistols, because they're easier to enter buildings and kind of sneak your way onto premises and then commit your act of violence. Whereas ARs are generally used more for indiscriminate violence in terms of mass shootings. But yeah, the only difference is the difference there is the caliber, not necessarily the actual firearm. Because an AR-15 can, if you have a pistol caliber one, then you can obviously shoot 9mm out of an AR-15 platform. That is, there's a lot of the way that they're constructed is a big part of it. Let's see. Heart goes out to the family. Saddened. Okay, whatever. Headed to the scene. Okay, I think these are all. This is the 146 mass shooting this year. How many days have we had so far in the year? I don't think. God, yeah. How many? Because what is it? 30. We're at 31. 28. God, I'm bad at math. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've had more mass shootings than we have had days of the year at this point. There have been more mass shootings. God damn it, why didn't I just read? There have been more mass shootings than days so far in 2023. 146 of them, according to Gun Violence Archive, a database that relies on a mix of 7,500 government and media sources to track violence across the country. The GVA defines a mass shooting as an incident with a minimum of 4 victims shot, either injured or killed, not including the shooter. There have been at least 15 mass shootings in the U.S. in just the first 10 days of April. Jesus. In the last month alone, NPR reported on a shooting at a Denver high school and the death of 6 people. What the fuck? Wait, when was this? Oh, wait, I think I remember this. What is this? Local authorities Wednesday night near a vehicle. Oh, wait, I never heard about this one. Probably did, well, mainly because it didn't make that much news. Local authorities said a body was found Wednesday night near a vehicle. 17-year-old student was accused of shooting. Two administrators. Okay, no, I do remember this. Okay. That's that one. Okay. Including 3 9-year-olds at a shooting in Nashville. Okay. In total, more than 11,500 people have been killed by guns in the last 4 months alone. Jesus. Muhammad Ali Center, just a few blocks from the shooting, calls for the country to do what is right. McConnell says he is devastated. Senate Republican and Laney are devastated by the news coming from Louisville. Thank you, LMPD, for the first responder bravely at the scene. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, how are the families of those officers gonna feel? Fucking send out prayers, victims, families. Elaine and I are devastated. Don't care. Okay. Let's see. The thing about general safety is that it's very rare for those first talking of attack or an intruder to be accurately reported. Because this we have no true idea what the preventative effects guns have. So it's really hard to say. Both sides have widely disproportionate claims. Not specifically. Yeah, I think there's like an argument. There's an argument from, I think, people who are just, they're just anti-gun. They want none of it in our society. And there is an argument that less guns in a society will lead inevitably to a lot less of these kinds of deaths. A good example of this is Japan. The gun laws in Japan are incredibly strict, and ownership in Japan, from what I've seen, is really, 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 really low. And you just don't see this kind of stuff. And it is true that would a ban probably, would an outright ban reduce gun violence to a pretty large amount? Yes, I think it would. Do I think it would stop all of it? No, it will never do that. We have a lot of guns in the country that are unregistered, that are all over the place. Unfortunately, that's a solution that, yes, would give us the best results, but it's unrealistic. It will never happen. It can never happen. So it's not really worth the whole, oh, do we ban, do we not? There is none of that. It's not possible to ban all guns or any of that in the United States. What we can do is just add restrictions, make it a little bit more safe for people, one could say, a little bit more, not safe, restrictive for people to acquire firearms. I think also in a hasty fashion. You see a lot of, I remember growing up, we had wait times, and I feel like that was an effective way to kind of give people time instead of rashly going out, buying a firearm, committing violence with it. I do think the waiting periods did stem a little bit of that. We can't know for sure. But it's just, there's a lot to balance. There's a lot of balancing that has to go on. Reported because, okay, let's say. Also, the way that they report mass shootings is also a little disingenuous. They include gang violence, but when people say mass shooting, they don't intuitively think about gang violence. I mean, that's true, but I would still call that mass shooting. I think it's because I think they just define it by if it's 4 more people injured or killed. So they don't want to include gang violence, which I think there's an element to that should be, there should be an attributable percentage of that. Where it's like, oh, there's been, what did that number say? 11,500 killed by guns. I mean, granted that we're, and I'm sure there is a, this percentage of those because of gang violence or whatever, but I would also want to see how many of those are domestic, how many of those are, the vast majority we know are going to be suicides also. Mass shootings are just the really public, the very public, the very newsworthy, and the very, front page news, attention grabbing headline stuff that people tend to focus on. Mass shootings are not causing 11,500 deaths, but there are still 11,500 people that are dying by suicide, by gang violence, by some of these mass shootings, by domestic disputes, by all of this stuff. Overall, this is the cost we're paying. As of April, we are paying 11,500 people's lives for the very open ability to own firearms. There's, like I said, there's just a balance. I guess my thing when it comes to guns is, and I really appreciate you being in here, Zazie, because you're actually making solid points, and I appreciate that you're not just coming in here to be like, herder liberal wants to ban guns, because I don't. I own firearms. I like going to the range. I like shooting. I think guns are cool. I play Call of Duty. But there's just there's a balance that we have to do, that we have to make when it comes to people's safety in our society and the ownership of guns. And I honestly think most gun owners aren't really that similar to 2A activists. I think 2A activists are well out of step with most gun owners. Most gun owners are not Republicans. I think the plurality is actually independents, who get them for their own reasons. Some of them defense, some of them, they like to go to the range, some of them, whatever the reasons. But regardless, all of them kind of agree that, yeah, this shouldn't be that easy. There should be barriers to this, the same way there's barriers to owning and operating a vehicle. Vehicles cause a huge amount of deaths over the course of a year due to accidents, and we've understood that that's the trade that we as a society, I think, have accepted as, like, I think the number is like 50,000 people die is the one that Charlie Kirk quoted, is there's 50,000 vehicle deaths every single year. Which means driving cars, everybody driving cars, costs us 50,000 people every single year. Now, is that worth it? Most people would say, well, yeah, if we all ran everywhere, that wouldn't really be, our cities aren't planned for that. Our societies aren't built and structured to accommodate that. They're built and structured to accommodate cars. So it's more of something where I think we have made that trade, and we have decided, yeah, this is the trade that we're willing to make for cars. Now, would I like less cars on the road? Sure. I want more public transit. I'm a leftist. But, that's kind of, being able to get around is pretty fundamental to living, to being able to do anything. Whereas owning firearms is, I think, just a little bit less, what's even the word? I think it's less of a universal need for everybody, and more like a situational need, I suppose. But shooter, the thing that they tell, like at the end of all YouTube videos where they tell you to, like, click on one of these, like, things to watch more videos. Yeah, I've been meaning to film one of those. So that's what I was doing. I was just setting it up to film one.